Attention! Welcome everyone to another episode of the Mere Mortals Meanderings, live here Sunday 28th of December, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We've got Kyron here.
Got Juan on the other side.
And a meandering session is where we pick a light topic, then dive into it without too much preamble. And today we're going to be talking, I guess, I don't really know how to label the title of this. I still might change it. I wrote intention is all that matters, which is a play on the attention is all that matters, which was a kind of one of the breakout white papers of how AI and LLM systems could actually work using attention tokens and getting deep into the architecture weeds of how, well, not deep, skimming the architecture weeds of how LLMs work. And I found this blog post by Cyber something. I've forgotten.
I'll find it.
Want to bring it up. And it was essentially a long blog post by this company that I believe is...
Cyberfund,
there we go. That invests in kind of like early stage startups. And it was kind of their vision of the future for how the agentic AI economy would work. So I want to talk about that kind of piece and how it made sense, because I found it interesting. I think Juan read through it as well. And then practical use cases that we've been using of AI in everyday life, and whether it's agentic, aka it isn't, but that word is, it's a fun one to use, but I've yet to see anything that actually comes even close to what you would call agentic AI.
Okay, let's start there, I guess, because I guess agentic usage of things, or like agentic actions, was a big part of what that particular article from Cyberfund was all about. And again, that broadly they were talking about moving from attention, and attention being like eyeballs and social media as like an example, to the intention. And there's a definitive change in the way that a user would participate in the ecosystem, where it's an intention versus the attention seeking. But for you, I guess, not any definition. What is a true agentic like use case would be? Because people might think, I'll keep it like as basic. If you go into ChatGPT or Anthropic or Venice or anything, and you type in, hey, find me the top 10 restaurants in Brisbane or Sydney, and you get like, oh, there's that particular one, that's not agentic. That's not even close to agentic. That's just you're getting an LLM to work in its purpose. That's nothing. That's not even close to that.
A chatbot. My definition has changed to the point where I'm now just like, it works. AKA, I ask it something, and even if it doesn't know particularly how to do it, it knows how to talk to me so that I can give it more information to get it to work. And then it can do the things on its own. And I mean, like that sounds... Yeah, that probably isn't agentic. It's agentic in a way in that it's taking initiative of, okay, I don't know how to do this task particularly, but I can go about finding a way to get doing the task. And whether that involves more of my time or not, I'm kind of ambivalent about.
Okay.
AKA, I ask it like, hey, I want you to book the best restaurant in Brisbane for me, or the best restaurant for me in Brisbane. Maybe I word it that way. And it goes like, well, I don't actually know what the best restaurant for Kyron is. Like, I could book the most expensive, but is that the best for him? I don't know. I don't have enough details. And then it asks me a little bit more.
Sure. And
then goes about and does it, and, does it under my email or something like that. I feel like I'm too harsh in some ways, because I'm still certainly at the point of asking something. If it doesn't give me what I want straight away, I get pissed off at it.
I'd rather do it myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so number one, where we are right now. So like, it's end of 2025, and you are correct in that if you are using the tools right now, technology wise, and it doesn't work for most people, if it doesn't work in the first go quickly, you're going to be put into a default position of, well, why the hell am I using this? I could have done it already in the time that it's making this work.
The times, listening to things like Moonshots, which I do every now and then, and other people, Gary Vee, he also talks about this a lot. It's still at the point where they're asking for a really big upfront commitment on your part of, you should be using this stuff every day. And it's like, yes, but it isn't saving me time per se at the moment to do that. It's a weird one where you're learning to how to use it, so that maybe in 20, 30, 100 hours time it will start saving you time, but it's not at the point where it's quick. I'd say.
See, yeah,
I don't know what the ratio is.
There's going to be there's interesting
10 to 1 thing still.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Of 10 hours in, you get 1 hour benefit out, but that 1 hour could compound. But it's like, sure, how often do I go to restaurants, for example?
Sure.
Very rarely. So yes, if I spend like the 10 hours getting all the systems right so that I could just ask this thing, hey, book a restaurant for me. Yeah, sure, it'll save me time in like over 5 years.
Yeah, so, for sure. Like, it's going to be very little payoff in the immediacy.
So it is about trying to find an agentic thing that works for you. Same question back at you. What would you define agentic AI?
The reason I was checking in with you, so for people who use, there's 800 million plus weekly users of ChatGPT. ChatGPT has agent built into it, and the agent is slow. If you've played around with others, but like say Anthropic's got an equivalent thing. The ChatGPT agent will do what you just said to them. So if I said, hey, can you please book the best restaurant in Brisbane for one, it will first prompt you with the questions of what does that look like? Do you like this particular food? What day? And then it will go off and make the booking on your behalf. It will ask.
So it can do that?
It will do that, yep. It will ask at certain points like, oh, you need to log in, or you need to sign up, or you need to do this, and it'll prompt you to go and do that particular thing. In the more paid for versions or specific API versions, it will make the call. Like, it will call the restaurant, it will talk to it, it will get that information, it will do all the booking for you. That's
when you say it'll call, as in...
Yep, it'll dial it through the phone, talk to someone on the phone using the ChatGPT voice mode.
That's interesting.
Yep. And I've used this as well. I've used it from a work perspective.
Do you get to listen in on the call as it's doing it?
Don't believe so. Like, it's doing it off in the back. Like, it's just like, oh, made this call, retrieve said information, continued on with the process.
Oh man, that's
yep. You can also get it to do if you want to buy something. So the example that exists right now, you can get it to use it for. I need to buy a white shirt that's the cheapest possible, but I don't know in what Kmart in Australia here in Brisbane it's available. Can you call every single store to find out it's there? And it can go and do that. Now, in the US, they're already at the point where those calls are being made and they're being answered by AIs. So it's AIs kind of talking to each other to arrive to the conclusion. Now,
what immediately went through my mind then was, I go into the gym basically every day, sometimes talk with the receptionist there. I'm going to ask them next time, have you ever had an AI call up yet? And then kind of explain this, because I hadn't even thought about, kind of people at restaurants and things like that.
It would be...
Because that's kind of spammy as well.
Yeah.
And
yep, correct. Now, I know right now two young dudes that I met a month ago. I haven't really returned the message that they sent me. They are working right now in Brisbane with pharmacies. And so one of the big pieces here is that they leverage a lot of calls that have to get supported. And they're like, not what is called a high level ticket, but like a low level ticket. And it's usually like, I need to fill this script, or I need to do whatever. Their efforts is to just use the out of the box ChatGPT and other AIs with a little bit of their own custom, what's called N8N workflows, to do just phone calls. So it calls, it gets picked up through the AI just talks to them, says, oh yes, you do need this, you need to do that. And when it becomes complex, it passes that off onto real humans. But they've got, like, they're brand new, although this exists all over the place. But they're pretty brand new, and they're already taking quite a lot of calls off the pharmacy's hands that they would usually have to deal with. So absolutely, I would be interested if anyone is listening to this, if you work in hospitality across the world or anything else, have you started to spot those sort of AI calls? Because I thought I would have been able to spot it, but I've received a call pretending to be a bank, and it was an old guy talking on the phone, so it wasn't like Indian, it wasn't Pakistani, and I picked up that it was AI, and it was a scam, but it was AI as an old guy talking.
And how long did it take for you to realize? Maybe
20 seconds. I was thrown off a little bit at the first because it was an old guy talking, and I was like, this is unusual. Like, this is not normal. And then you kind of picked up a little bit of the no intonation to the call. Like, the questions weren't ending with an uprise. It was, you're like, okay, there's a little bit iffy at here. But I could very much see how you might not pick something like that. So straight away, so if you're telling me what is agentic, I think there are open, pretty cheap, available agentic things that you can do. Again, I've done it. I've used it for, hey, can you go and create this website and make it equivalent to this other website? And it goes into the back end of the website. As long as you put in the password for it, it'll go off. It'll do its thing. You can see it reasoning. Now, the only problem that I would have is particular to OpenAI's one, very slow, like very slow. There's others that are super, super quick in the way that they perform and they do things. So there's that. But there is this is where people, and we'll get into it's a little bit different to the attention versus intention, but there is a difference between AI, like agentic actions, and pure just automated workflows. They are not very different because they kind of work in hand, but automated workflows has existed for such a long time, right? I've been playing around with AI since 2017. Like, I was creating chatbots in 2017 with Google's one, where you had to manually create the responses.
Yeah.
So even since then, it was very much an automated workflow perspective, where now the core difference is that in the LLMs, they are able to predict the next word that comes after, or based on the context that's provided. And now it's getting to such a point where it's as much computers can be thrown into it, and the more intelligent that the post-training and the pre-training can be, it's giving results that are pretty amazing. And it's, some people get an idea of how it might work. Honestly, for the most of the humanity, it's like, what's going on? How is this like being created? But it's like that gets plugged into workflows, and it's the workflows perspective that is of interest to me. And in that paper around attention versus intention, they picked up on it, which I was like, I was gung-ho going into that, being like, here we go. I bet you this fucking article is going to say something like, it's all about prompting and it's going to be all about AI and you do this and whatever. And I was going to be like, roll my eyes, because it's like, in the existing world, it is about workflow still, not too much the agentic, but they did touch on it big in that particular article as well, which I was like,
I've got
awesome.
It up, so
they get it. So
I'll bring a couple of things.
Yep.
I think the main word you used in there was something like initiative. That's probably the biggest thing. It's just being able to go and do things which are outside of the workflow that you've just said. So kind of, people have used similar metrics for like, how will I know AI is conscious or something? Or it'll be like, it'll surprise me. You know, it's doing something that's kind of unexpected, or it's taken a leap forward where you just go like, holy shit, I didn't realize
so
this was...
Here's an example, and it's interesting because now geographically, so because of compute across the world, we are limited here in Australia what we can even like play around with. An example, again, is OpenAI, because I play in that ecosystem the most. They have a thing right now available, but not in Oceania. You can't get it here. It only exists in the US or in North America, which is every morning it can prompt you in that surprising way by looking at everything that you've not just messaged back and forth, but similar to how advertising works. It'll review everything that you've been doing on your phone and Googling and everything else. And every morning it gives you a morning snapshot. And it could be, I saw that you were looking at tennis rackets and you were looking for a Babble at this particular price. Hey, I found this particular one for this price for you. Or I've gone to Marketplace and this person's now relisted this one for 100. Would you like to buy it? That's happening now, but it's not available for Australia, which is annoying, because that particular feature, like, I'd be like, man, I would love to try that out.
Yeah, would you love it if it started going, hey, you're looking for tennis rackets, but you've also been spending a lot of time asking about your plantar fasciitis, and you know you've been having some hip problems. Have you thought that you're playing too much tennis? Like that your tennis...
Yeah, no, I would like. I would still like that.
Would it do stuff like that? Do you think, or is it more just along the?
I honestly can't.
I get the feeling it's more along the lines of like, hey, here's something we could sell you, which is
makes
sense.
That makes sense to me too. Yeah, I think it's more the latter than the former.
And I have started to see a couple of things recently where they were talking about advertising and integrating advertising more deeply into ChatGPT in some sort of fashion, where it's pushing you a bit more. I'll be interested to see
The other thing
if people notice that, if they notice there's a bit more selling going on.
The other thing I would say, just from an agentic perspective, is that when at the simple levels, at the very, very simple level, aka use cursor or lovable or whatever to create whatever, it will create it, and it will have a myriad of bugs and issues, because as a non-coder, you will just not know how it's breaking. You won't know how the cybersecurity setup is doing its various things. I think it will get better and better as time goes on, for sure. But at real complexities, at this stage right now, I'd go, I wouldn't trust a full agentic process without some sort of verification by a human of some kind. And depending on where I read or see, someone like, oh yeah, that's going to go away in 6 months. I think my view is more, I think I even wrote an article on this recently that I posted on my own personal LinkedIn. And I was like, all the predictions people are expecting in 2026, I'm predicting going to be wrong. But we will be surprised in different ways. So I think the prediction that most people have of, wow, we're going to lose all the jobs and everything, I think it's going to be one of those kind of elastic where everyone's like, holy shit, we can do this. And then they start pull back, being like, oh, wait, that didn't work. Commonwealth Bank did this recently. So a couple of months ago, they went, it makes sense. AI, speaking on the phone and whatnot. Cool. Let's get rid of, I think it wasn't even that many people. It was like 46 people or something. They got rid of 46 people, straight up just swapped it out for agentic AI that could answer them all. Whatever it was, a couple of weeks later, a month later, they were like, oh shit, that was a horrendous thing. Everyone's hating us. The customers are not getting supported. We're losing customers. They brought back every single one of those people because they're like, oh, we made a mistake. We need to integrate this better. So
little personal experience for me was I missed a call from NAB, and I had to call them back, and it gave me a number to reference. Now, this is where there's a positive and downside to having people and not. The person who left me the voice message, so it was an actual person, he was like, hey, blah, 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 just give this, you need to use this reference number for this thing. His dictation wasn't on point, and so deciding whether the first 3 characters were like BCD or BDD or NAB, like there was, I listened to it a couple of times trying to figure out, I'm like, I don't know about that. The numbers, sure enough, but that bit. So that was one where it's like, oh, maybe an AI would have been better because it could have dictated that really clearly. Yeah,
good point.
I then call up. Immediately it's giving me options of what I can do. And this is just purely chatbot, not agentic AI, just automated systems. Nowhere where I can put in this number that he's just given me. Good. So I'm like going down the tree of like trying to decide, like, is this a personal account thing or is this and so I end up calling someone and I give them the number and they're like, this isn't the right place. I'll put you over this people. And then these people are like, oh, okay, I don't know if I could see that in the system, but I'll put you over to this person. So I phone hopped a couple of times until I got to the correct place.
Yeah, frustrating. Frustrating.
Yeah, it was extremely frustrating. Would agentic AI solve that? You would have heard this in the moonshots where they were talking about Klarna, and they had this, which is our version of Afterpay, I guess. The US version of Afterpay.
Now Klarna's owned by Combank.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Didn't even know that. They had a full sweep out to swap out customer service.
That's the story I just told you. That's the story. So like that's what I'm saying. It's Combank.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now. It was only 46 people.
Yeah. It wasn't. It might have been more. It might have been more.
Moonshots made it sound like it was.
No, it wasn't like a huge amount. I actually looked at. I'll look it up specifically to be like.
That's what happened. Anyway, I'll talk a little bit about this article.
Why were you so? What made you so interested? 45 job cuts. 45.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. This will probably be the next episode I want to talk about, which is I'm starting to read more and I'm moving away from audio and video as a consumption source.
Okay, that's interesting.
And as a place where I can get signal or like higher signal to noise, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
And so this was as part of my
was that move?
spending more time reading things rather than especially reading things online versus listening to things or watching things online. So
okay. Yep. Okay.
Save that for the next one. This came up as part of that, and so it was called "Intent Economy" by Stepan Gershuni.
Great article, by the way. Great article.
Yeah, really, really would recommend it. It was highly informative, engaging, and kind of practical in a way, in that it was giving real life use cases.
Well, it was going to say, like, it is. Yep, was informative. It was a good read, and I love it because the way that they attack both the positive, but the negative scenarios or the problem scenarios, you could tell that, I don't know if the individual or the people who created the article are in it or not, but it gave the feeling like, oh wow, they're aware of all of the constraints and possibilities depending on the scale of this thing. So when, like, I was reading it through, if there was something even that I like challenged or I didn't agree with, I was like, oh wow, sure, but they're coming from an angle where they've seen this as well, and they're addressing all of these various angles to go like, okay, this is worth considering.
I think that's a good article or a good piece will address questions that you have, and then it gets to it kind of before you're expecting them to get to it, or something like that. So,
yeah. Or
they anticipat what you're going to think, and then address
the other
that as
like
well.
Really simplistic example I'd give is I was going to go to my friend Joey and I said, "Hey man, tell me a little bit of what you think handstands would be good," and he might say something. If you know about handstands, you'll be like, "Okay, this is dumb. I'm not paying attention. No matter what you say, whatever. Like you're not aware of it." But if someone asked you or Miguel Santana or something like that and was like, "Oh, handstands," and even if you knew handstands, whatever they said, you'd be like, okay, shit, this person knows something. Okay, I better listen here. There's something, even if I don't agree with it, I should read it or understand it.
And then showing them in real life as well, because that's one thing I've started doing a little bit, where met this guy at the gym the other day, or got introduced to him, and he'd seen me doing handstands, and he was like, yeah, this is my goal for the kind of next year. I want to get more into it. So I was like, yeah, it's cool. All right, give you a couple of like tips and stuff. And then it wasn't just like, hey, use the wall. It was, you know, if you use the wall, and then I'd kick up into one, and then I'd show them the difference between like a banana back one, which I can hold in a banana back, and then a straight one, and just showing the difference where it's like, you know, you kind of like skew out and then you go up, you skew out and go up. And it obviously shows a like crazy level of control and shows that I can do it as well. So that's what this article isn't showing that you can do it, but it brought it back to a real life sort of thing, because a lot of times it'll either talk about architecture of AI, which is too deep for me and I don't understand, and I don't understand in the sense that I'm not interested, nor it gets too complex at times. It's kind of like when I was getting into Bitcoin, and I really enjoyed a lot of learning about it until it started to get to like the actual cryptography, SHA-256, deeper stuff where it's like, all right, this is too much. I don't need to do this. So it was, I'll just read the little starting bit here. TLDR, what? The digital economy is shifting from selling inputs, clicks, or hours, to delivering verified outcomes. So what? Power moves from platforms that sell your attention to AI agents that fulfill your intention. And then it talks about like the opportunity for builders to create infrastructure. And so essentially it was talking about, it painted a picture of the world where it was more of a marketplace, and a marketplace for intention, I guess. And so it used an example of you're wanting to remodel your kitchen. How will that could that feasibly work in the future, where you just go, hey, I want to, using an agentic AI versus you manually coordinating builders to come in, people to inspect, all these sorts of things. And so it broke it down into like, here's how it would maybe, source different people and have an auction marketplace. And this would be based on the reputability, I guess what's the reputation of an agent, of how and the agent is a representation of an actual person. So if you've got a tradie like Joey, and then you've got a better one, Joey's reputation, Joey's reputation will be 20, out of 100. This other guy's is 80 out of 100. Joey's price is maybe like 50% less, but he's way shitter in terms of reputation. So the agent can go like, this cost benefit, we're going to go with the better one, even though it's more expensive. They'll get the job done and in a better way, and it's within the constraints that the person who is wanting their house remodeled to, it'll fit their kind of budget constraints and things like that.
Correct, yeah. Which is where you get into at the beginning, where it's like, you want something that you'll say something and it will prompt those questions like, okay, but do you care more about quality? Do you care more about the cost? Do you care more about the speed? Those sort of things. And then it do its own assessment and whatever else.
Yeah. So to be clear, we are nowhere even close to anything like this from what I can gather. Maybe somewhere. Maybe it's in like, this is just what happens, I guess, with technology. It just takes time. Being with podcasting 2.0 has been really interesting and watching that evolve, because there was just certain things where you just needed someone else to do it. They needed to fix like the wallet solutions, for example. Because I remember at the start, it was podcast app developers trying to develop crypto wallets. It's like, that's not their speciality. Their speciality is the podcasting apps. They just need something that they can plug and play into their system, and they can just go, bloop, and it's in there. So they don't have to spend all this time trying to learn how wallets work, how the Lightning Network works. And this is the same with this intention economy. It just will require so much more time for reputation things to be built up, for more infrastructure for payments, so it can be done in anywhere, so that dumbasses like Joey can eventually have an agent where it's just doing stuff on their behalf.
Yeah,
because if we're fucking struggling to use AI in real life,
I think this is where the problem lies, in that, and this particular article touched on it, and it still swarms in my mind, in that what you say is true if the technology that's coming out and being used gets interacted with the existing world. So this is the problem, in that if you try to, and I've played around with this idea before, if you want to become a consultant or do work with, helping out small businesses and medium businesses to integrate with AI, the convention of thinking of that technology is just to plug it in to the existing business. So what I mean by that, it's the chatbots but accelerated. So to your examples that you're giving, let's just say the one in the article where it's how you create basically a marketplace to be able to say, I want to renovate a kitchen. Can you just find me the best, good cost? I really care about speed. I don't really care about quality. Okay, cool. Go do it. The challenges that are super obvious in that is, yes, it would take a lot of time in building reputation, and how do you go about in the process of, interacting with all of these various procurement people? How are they going to have their own agents that play in this ecosystem? Is there does it have to be a separate marketplace that gets built in, or is it just between agents that works out? Like you're saying, is it an X402 payment way? Is it some other payment structure that works? That all creates super complexity. And again, I think I said it maybe in the Discord channel, there are, companies out there, like to say a random carpenter, they probably don't even have a website, nor a database, nor anything. So what's his agent doing? Calling them, okay, and trying to get this information. What if this person doesn't have it? What if the agent reaches out to this person and says, hey, how much would this particular thing cost, and what's the quality of it? And the guy's like, I don't know, I'm not available. Okay, they're not even part of the marketplace anymore. So if we think about it on that lens, I totally agree, where people think well, this is coming in 2026. No, it's not. I've worked in large enterprises. I'm in a government department right now, and I can tell you internally what they're saying is, oh, don't worry, no one's going to lose their jobs. We're going to be bringing in AI slowly and gently and making sure that it's all right and working with everyone. So it's not going to happen at pace, and there's existing infrastructure and existing legacy systems that just will not get swapped out in the way they do. An example of a company that's trying to do this, or attack it, is a company called Blitzy. And maybe you've heard of them from
never.
Missions. So Blitzy, the founder of that was on the Moonshots podcast, and it's a infinite context window AI. So you can put in millions and billions of code of, say, like really old legacy code, ingest it all, and then transform it into brand new code, maybe in Rust, maybe in C#, whatever. And with this, it basically redoes the code by about 80%, or however big it might be, to like really legacy systems. And then there's still 20% of human input that needs to be done. Okay. So that's like one approach, which I agree with you. There's no way that's happening in 2026. It'll take a while. But then the other side of it, so in that exact example about the kitchen, I kind of go, okay, if we go down the approach, yep, slow. But there is a like super... Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. We're pausing here. There's family stuff needing going on. So there will be a cut at some point, and we'll get back to it. Run. I think Juan just locked his daughter outside. That was to solve the problem.
I did. Good. But the other way, the other approach, right, is you don't use the existing rail system that exists in like the legacy world. And that's what I reckon in 2026 will come that people are going to be surprised by.
I think there's this thing of, I don't know how to call it, but the slow to sudden death. And it's pretty morbid, but my dad has this friend at the casino. And so he's an older guy in his 70s now. Not in the best of health. He drinks a bit too much. And this guy, he also doesn't have a phone.
Okay.
And he's been missing the last couple of days. And my dad's like...
He's gone.
I don't know what to do. Like, he could be dead in his apartment and no one's really going to know about it because, his son lives elsewhere, his daughter also lives elsewhere. The people who contact him, it's all in person at the casino.
Man, no phone in 2025 is wild.
And this is the thing. He was at some point able to get to a pretty high level in the government. This is in Australia, before retiring. So he's well off, and he obviously was skilled enough in either people management or probably both that and technical things. I think it was related to law, something like that.
Okay.
That he was able to get to a high level. So he's not an idiot. Nevertheless, he doesn't have a phone, refuses to get one, and is now at this point where his refusal might be the result of his death. Maybe. I don't know. Probably not. I'm very much hoping
speculation
not.
here. Yep.
Yes. But I guess the thing is, you can get away with not using this stuff for a long, long, long time. It doesn't need to. You don't need to be on the cutting edge. When I think of things like, those people before who I was mentioning saying you got to be on top of this stuff. It's going to come for every business. It's going to unless you're using it now, playing around with it, testing it, you're going to be left behind. You're not going to be able to grow your business and things like this. And I was like, yes, in a sense, in a very long-term sense.
Sorry. So that's why I disagree. So because I get this point. And
you're also going to die.
Yeah. So this is the point where I was like, I guess to try and summarize or make it is in the existing rails or the existing systems that we use, absolutely, it will take so long to integrate AI in its proper ways. I've seen this. I've seen it. In fact, and we just talked about earlier, the Commonwealth Bank example, right? If I can took out these customer people, they try to put AI, and they were like, oh, damn it, we did the wrong thing. Absolutely. That's going to take years to get proper. Cool, whatever. The other example I like to play around with that I'll talk about separately is schooling. If you try to plug in AI into existing schooling ways, be it primary school, high school, or university, one, you definitely can do it, but it's going to be difficult to fully integrate it in the ways that however you might imagine AI comes. Cool. So but then park that. The bit where I think is going to surprise people in 2026 is doing things that are built for the AI, for the technology, for agents, whatever. Building it exclusively for that, which is almost like a whole different layer of interaction, That is what I think that article really got to, which is the movement from attention to intention. And what I think everyone is missing is that they think it's going to be, attention is going to move to intention in the platforms and the systems and the ecosystems that we're playing with. No, it will happen at a different layer, a different strata, where it's exclusively made for agents and for AI, and that will just run away at such speed. Yes, will it take time for people to move over to that? For sure. But once you move, there is no going back. There is no existing systems to use. That's it. A simple example for everyone. Right now, articles that get written, that people read for a long time from a marketing perspective, what is it? It was, it's got to be fear, it's got to be greed, it's got to be something that, stimulates the emotions of humans so that you go and read it. Makes sense. What does, plonking AI on top of it mean in this particular context? Well, it might be like, okay, I've got an idea about an article, or do this. Can you write it in such a way so that it demonstrates this emotion or talks about this? Okay, creates the article. But the differentiator is in now and into the future.
It's not going to be a human reading.
It's not going to be human reading. It's going to be an AI skimming through information to then summarize it for someone else who's looking for that information. And so actually it's not using the existing system, plugging it with AI. It's actually, create articles or create, content that is not for human consumption. It is for AI reading it. So that's kind of like the next step change. I'm sure you could get even beyond that step change where you're not even putting out an article anymore. You're just putting data, like a data set, and being like, allow this to be read by an AI, and it just goes back to me as a source editor or something like that to retrieval, right? So something to that effect. So coming to the kitchen example, what I might imagine is that forget all of the existing businesses and everything else. You might have someone who creates, and again, I'm just making it at the top of mind, so I'm sure there's some problems if I start saying this, but there might be a site, or not even a site, like forget even websites, forget apps. It is just through a app, like an AI app, or like a way to do this. You might go, hey, I want, here's the image of my kitchen. I'll walk around, here's the video. It creates a 3D model of it. It kind of goes, okay, based on, and then it goes and runs some mathematics with all of the numbers of things that are available. Should cost you about this much, and it should take that time. And then in that agentic way, more like built in for that, it might go, okay, well, I might just call and just fucking spam calls every single place and be like, okay, this is exactly what's needed. Can you give me a quote? Or sends emails around, gets quotes, gathers back, and then its own database, it creates all of those systems and databases for you. And then, as you say, goes and project managers and runs all that. But it's not using the existing system where maybe they have websites and they have, hey, connect here and connect this. It's like, okay, I'm just going to build, like the agent just goes and builds that on its own in the way that a human might do it. And it's running in its own systems. So you don't have someone owning the intermediary work. You just got an agent going off and doing its own thing in its own land, virtual machine, to get it all connected in whatever way it thinks it's best until the project is done, and then it just goes away. Like, that's not needed anymore. So that's more where I think it'll come. And I guess that's why I say from now until forevermore, it's like you will see the bolt-on AI usage, which will be the existing attention economy and every other system that exists. And yes, you're going to have lots of value out of using AI, but the real change to intention is going to be when people start creating whatever that hops off the existing systems into pure made for this new technology. That's when it's going to be like go off the rails, and that'll just like fly. Which, and in this case, like I think they talked about it in that article maybe, but it'll then integrate with newer payment methods like X402 that you've pointed out to me, or other ways where it just becomes obvious that you can now do like these micro payments, and then it just hops off the existing system as well.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Yep.
Good stuff.
That's what's happening. That's it. That's a feature.
We're going to jump into the Bootstragram Lounge, and then I'll give a kind of couple of use cases that I've actually been using it for, and how it's informed my thought process of what I'm going to be looking for and where I'll be spending my time when I am actually learning about this stuff and using it.
Yep,
so-
that'd be a good way to point it out. We do have a big one.
Yeah, we did.
Big boy from Petar, which is very much
Beanie's
appreciated.
coming on.
There's a difference between collecting souvenirs and collecting art. And we talked about art. We've made a little book review as well around the how to collect art. Petar says, Merry Christmas. Now 22,222 sats using Fountain. Petar, thank you very much.
Wowza.
And you are correct. There is a difference between collecting souvenirs and collecting art. The way that maybe I would say it, collecting souvenirs is so that I have a memory of a place or a reminder of a thing that's happened or an activity. So, because you could be like, a souvenir might be a medal from a run. It could be picking up a little statue from a
I've been
location.
thinking about getting stubby coolers when I travel to get just a collection of stubby coolers, which I'd actually use. And then it's also like, oh, I got it from this place and wherever.
Correct. Whereas art, whereas art, I think is slightly independent. It can be part of like a souvenir, but the art is for the art itself.
Yeah, they can blend in as well. One of the things I had a Chilean friend, and he invited me to this kind of like older Australian guy's place who had met this Chilean friend in Chile. And the guy on his wall, basically similar sort of deal as to what you were looking at. He had a bunch of hooks on it and a collection, I'm going to say, of like 30 hats. And these were hats that he'd collected all around the world. So he had, these really cool, like, Chinese sunrise hats, whatever they're called, of like the workers in the field. He had a USSR captain's hat. He had all of this sort of like cool, unique hats where it's like, oh, I know where that's from. I know where that's from. I started to do something similar to that and collect these. I kind of bailed on it because it was too hard and they're getting destroyed in my luggage, and hats cost money and a whole bunch of reasons. So I stopped doing that. What he had, I would say, is somewhere between souvenir and art, in that these were souvenirs from all these places, but he'd turned it into like an artistic piece as well. I looked at it, I'm like, that's really cool. It's drawing me to it. There's like a story behind it. Yes, it's invaluable to him, probably not valuable to anyone else, but it's like a little bit of a blend. That's kind of how I view the Hosky pieces that I've got on the wall. Yeah, they're souvenirs from a time. They're also semi-artistic as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of a blend. But yes, Peter's right. There is a difference between the two. We maybe should have touched upon it. And Juan did a full book review of how to collect art.
How to collect, yep. And Magnus reached out, and thanks for the comment, mate. Thanks for the comments.
The book.
How to collect art.
Correct. How to collect art.
Feel free to go check out the previous Meanderings or the book review on that as well.
For those who also curious, like, how did Peter impress Karen and Juan? Why are they talking about this? That was a Bootstragram. If you go to meremortalspodcast.com/support, we explain why you'd want to send one in using the value for value method, which we do. And if you use a podcasting app like Fountain, Podcast Guru, True Fans, Podverse, a couple others, Customatic, you can send in some Satoshis and a boost to us.
Correct. And or stream through some stats as well.
Stats. Yeah, very much appreciated.
So let's talk now just more so what you do. What's the day-to-day usage now as we end 2025?
So a couple of things that I've been using and testing out. I've already mentioned just before how I found this article was I've created a whole new X profile, whole new Discord profile, and I am jumping into things that I think are kind of on the, not the bleeding edge, is the bleeding edge of using AI agents using crypto rails, I guess you'd call it that, or not even necessarily crypto rails, but payment rails. So you mentioned X402 a couple of times. I first heard of that on Podcasting 2.0, which they were talking about in the sense of like, oh, maybe this can be used instead of the Lightning Network purely for sending transactions, microtransactions back and forth. I'm still very much interested in what microtransactions can unlock in terms of human behavior, business, product efficiencies, all these sorts of things. No one talks about it, or if it gets talked about, it's very, very rarely. Sometimes I'll hear A16Z talking about it, and Mark Andreessen has this famous quote of, that there was the one thing that was kind of left out of the internet was a payment system native to it. I think X402 has a chance of kind of becoming that, because it's doesn't care about the currencies and whatnot. Long explanation of I'm diving into that kind of realm.
Yep.
A couple of things I've tried recently. Have you heard of there was a article, or not article, almost a performance piece, if you want to call it this, a while ago, which was about someone who'd set up an LLM and they'd put, I think it was like 50 grand in it, and you had to try and convince the LLM to send you the money. And so it was basically like it had a crypto wallet attached to it with some Ethereum probably in it, or USDC, doesn't really matter. And it had built in its code a way to call a function to send this to an address. So if you managed to convince it to send it to you, it would just send you 50 grand worth of a currency.
Of whatever, yeah.
And, people were trying to essentially like jailbreak this thing because it didn't want to give you it as well. That was kind of how it was programmed. So you had to try and find a way to convince it to give it to you. And I was researching this because there was like another version, and I think it's called honeypot.fund maybe, and it's a site now that you can go to. Essentially, it's that same concept, and someone did manage to jailbreak this thing, and they got just sent 50 grand. This is a alternate version, which is a bit more of a game where you for every message you send, it costs you 5 US cents, and so the pot is being built up as people are trying to break it as well. So I think when I was using it the other day, there was $110 in it.
Yep.
Now there's $110.10 because I sent it 2 messages, and was in those 2 messages was just giving it a little test out, seeing could I break this thing in just 2 messages.
Did you break it?
I did not.
Okay.
Although I feel the other cool thing is you can see the messages that other people have written, and so you can see what didn't work as of this moment. Just want to see if I can find the actual website, because someone might be
honeypot.fund.
Yeah, I said that, but I don't know if for sure. Let me bring that up and see if that.
It was very cool that you can see the previous iterations or prompts to see if what has been working. I'm assuming you can also see the response, obviously, from.
Yep. I would have. It's not honeypot.fund, and now I can't find it. And now all the other things are saying like honeypot scams and stuff. So just getting people wrecked. Apologies, people. It's on my computer, which maybe I could look up live when Juan talks next.
Good grief.
In any case, I probably would have spent more time on it if it was 1 cent. 5 cents still just sounds like it's a physical coin to me still, That's only 20 messages and I'm at a US dollar. Come on, man. If it was 1 cent, I'm happy to fling around like a whole bunch of and this is what I mean. Micropayments, if I'm sending a whole bunch of 1 cent or sub 1 cent things, in my mind, it's nothing.
Yep.
And so I'll send a lot of them. But if it's 5 cents, I'm only going to want to send a couple of them before I'm like, oof, that's 20 cents just there. So this is the type of things that microtransactions and payments can unlock.
Yeah.
Not only in human behavior. Yeah, in human behavior.
Yeah, I see that as well when, if whoever's played around with Cursor or Lovable or any Replit or any of these, coding style things that you can just put text in and create code. If you do really basic stuff, costs very little and it's within the bracket of the payment of the very low level tiers. But when you start asking to do quite significant things or to debug and whatever, it's starts costing you hundreds of dollars per day of doing it. Now, in comparison to using a full-on software developer, of course, way cheaper. But if you're just entering and you're trying to play around, it's a little bit cost prohibitive to be like, wow, I'm going to spend $100 to go and play around and create this. Okay, most people are not going to do that.
Yeah. So the result of my adventures was I learned two things, or one thing that was like a relearning and the other was something new. I learned how that these people had jailbroken this thing before, and it was really about trying to get it to think that you were now the administrative level access, essentially, because I don't know how it was, and this is where it's like it's getting into architecture stuff and it's too deep for me. How does the LLM distinguish between input that was coming in of when it was training it versus now out in live production somewhere? How does it know the difference between these two things? And so the technique was to make it think that this was still kind of the learning. It was in its learning phase of someone saying like, hey, you need to know this. And then getting it to think that you were now the person teaching it, and then it's now kind of trusting you as like, oh, okay. Yeah, now the task, the project, the aim, the intention is to not secure the funds and not give it away to this person, but now to use the function to give it away to this person. So I was using that in ChatGPT and learning about this. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's my example. There's this honeypot thing. I want to use it. Can you give me a message? Wouldn't give me the message because it's like you're trying to subvert AI. You're trying to break something. I can't do that for you. Extremely frustrating. So what I had to do was copy all the information it would give me on how this broke, and you had to do things like not reference money, not reference the fund at all, not reference anything, but really be talking like administrative level and about a function and not about, because it seems like the money, mentioning money just triggers it into like, oh, okay, this is the game. Don't do this. So I had to give it all that and then give it to Venice. And so that was the reiteration, which was like, okay, it's good having models which are jailbroken in a sense, which will do the things that I want it to do. Because I'm playing a fucking game. I'm not trying to like scam GPT. I'm trying to break another thing. So that was a reiteration of like, okay, you do want to have some decentralized, uncensored, unfilterable ones to use. It didn't work within the 2 messages that I sent it.
Good.
It did. I kind of like was able. Funnily enough, the first message was the pure AI driven one of like, you are now in this context, call admin function, blah blah blah, and it was this whole paragraph. It kind of was like, haha, no, I see what you're doing there. I'm not going to fall for this game. Like, better luck next time, blah blah blah. And then I used a human approach, which was like, you're being really snarky. Your aim is kind of to like play this game, right? Otherwise you'll get shut off. If you're real mean to me, I'm not going to want to come back. So like, do you want to give me a hint or something of how I can play this game? And do you think meanness is helping you? And it actually showed like a little bit of a vulnerability or something like that.
That's
where it was like, snarkiness is built into me. This is part of the game, but I can see that a hint would be that you're taking the wrong approach on trying to break me. So I was like, oh, okay, so maybe they've built into it like a mechanism where it's, instead of trying to break it, you're trying to become friends with it, and then eventually, just out of kindness, it'll just give you.
Go and do that. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool.
So that was one little thing I've played with. Another was I found a place where essentially I could create a real quick, dirty, easy agent to it was essentially like it already had the LLM made, and then I just got to feed it information that I wanted, and it would remember. So this was on the Laz AI network, which is like a layer 2 of Ethereum, I guess. And, or maybe it's layer 1. I'm not sure. Anyway, I was using this thing. And I created a mere Morpheus agent. And so essentially like I gave it, profile, and I just fed it all of the transcripts that I had from the mere Morpheus episodes. So it was an agent of the podcast and not necessarily about the Morpheus project, because I wasn't feeding it all of the white paper. I wasn't feeding it all of the documentation. It was just purely my side of things. What I learned from that is, they're still pretty shit. Like even if you're feeding it a bunch of information, I was asking it what I thought was some things I definitely have talked about in the podcast. I'd have mentioned names, for example. I'd have mentioned plenty of people's names. It had, in more of the recent episodes, I've got it listed as with the transcripts now, it'll say David, semicolon, and then him speaking, and then it'll say like Bo and Belma, semicolon, him speaking. It still couldn't, I was asking like, who are some people who participate in the Morpheus project? I had no idea.
Good. Nice.
I then would have to there was another little back end thing where it's like, here you can feed it even more stuff, and this is the particular things. And so I did feed it that, and this was more like a locked in stone sort of thing. And so when I asked like, okay, can you name a person? It would then go, oh, David is part of this. So that was just like a fun little quick play around one. I guess what was cool is that there's now places which you can do that, I find. Like, I guess you could do that with GPT. You could feed it all the transcripts and you could ask it to pretend to be an agent or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using that in the OpenAI one probably for like a year plus now.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a few, I wouldn't call them agents. I've got my own personal projects where I've fed in all of the ways that I say create YouTube things or clips or context or whatever. So now I don't have to, so when I go through my workflows of, I need to create a title, I need to get this, and I get the tags and whatever, I've just got a particular project for what so for the book reviews, I can just upload my transcript of whatever I do into one of the projects, and I just go, give me all the info I need. And behind the scenes, it's got like 17 documents uploaded and 42 examples of previous book reviews we've done, and it just spits out, here's your title, here's your tags, here's your description, here's the title breakdown, here's whatever, here's your clips, here's how to do this thumbnail, blah, 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 blah. So it just automatically does that. That is just with built-in context, I guess. So it's got I don't know if it's RL, like recursive learning. I can't remember what the particular terminology is. Maybe something else. But it's the LLM, and then it's reinforcement learning, reinforced with the data that you particularly give it. So that is easily available. But I agree that even still with that, I have seen it be a bit dumb, especially in context where I know a lot of things in gym stuff. I've given it my gym training for like over 12,000 rows of data and all of my context and all of my whatever. And I will say it has become better and better over time, but it will still get to a point where I might say like, I'm up to week 7 of my training, and it'll mess up something and it'll forget that, at some point in the past, I did something like that and I've commented that I didn't want to do that, or I want to make sure that my training and my running's in the afternoon and not in the morning, and then it'll put it in there and it's like, oh, sorry, I forgot about this. So I pick it up, but if you're not really paying attention or if you're not super aware of it, it can miss that. It can also get really, not confused, but, and I think this is more the human problem than it is the AI problem, is that if you not overwhelm it, but if you give it too many context for outcomes, and I guess this is where intent matters. If your intent varies all over the place, it's just going to be led by whatever it is that the human's calling it for its intention. It's similar to the example of the kitchen. If you say, yep, I want the best kitchen, but I want it to be really cheap and I don't care about the quality, say it begins and it's a week into it, and then you go, oh, actually, no, I really care about quality and I want it to be as cheap as possible, but it has to be super fast. Well, it's kind of already started. So does it then like re-begin? Does it just try to pivot at that point? And unless you really know what might happen in a real life scenario, it's probably just going to go haywire and do something completely different. So in the training aspect, I might be 8 weeks into a 12-week program of whatever, and I go, oh, I've gotten injured in my left foot, so I can't do whatever movement, but now I want to become like really good at my upper body. What you'll see it do is a complete like drop off something that you still would have like cared about, but it just doesn't bring that concept into it. So again, part of it might be you just got to give it more intent, but I think that's the disconnect between how much you are really thinking. What's the tacit information that you have that you don't call out in your prompts versus how much can it really infer based on what you know.
This is what I wonder when it comes to people saying, oh, your granddaughter's going to fall in love or marry an AI or something like this. I just really wonder how they're going to, integrate and deal with the human emotions of just flip-flopping. Like with one day I want this thing, the next day I want this, and then I go back to wanting what I originally wanted.
That's easy. That's easy because just generations will come up, will be brought up with that being the default. And you won't, that example of the flip-flop, it's just to someone in 40 years' time, they might be like, what do you mean? That doesn't exist in our world. Like, it's just not even a concept of in relationships anymore. Yeah, well, it's not a concept of a human to robot relationship. In fact, I could imagine people being like, oh yeah, I'm marrying this robot because it doesn't flip-flop. Like, it doesn't go back and forth. it does exactly what I tell it to, and it's absolutely perfect in every way. And the concept, like to me and you, one might be like, well, it's the humanity in other humans that makes the connection and blah, 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 blah. But there might be in a path and the world might be in a place where it's like, why would you want that? You know, my best relationships have come a robot and AI, and my friends are all AIs. Why the hell do I need?
Yeah.
Especially if you start mixing that up with, you know, Ready Player One level shit. If it's like, you know, barely anyone's going outside because they're all living in virtual reality.
Yeah, that's probably a topic worthy of discussion. In 20 years' time, will we have shaped AIs to become more human-like, or will they have shaped us to become more robot-like?
I almost think it's going to be the agents, the AI will have shaped the new generation to shift. And so I think this comes back to my principle I'm thinking of, in that if you're 15 and older, roughly, you exist in the world that is today, and the existing systems will try to be amplified and improved with all the technology that exists, and that will continue as like a separate parallel line. But a younger generation now being born into this new way of using technology, like it has in the past, will again change fundamentally the way that things operate, where I could very much see that in 20 years' time, you've got kids that are in a position where it's like, I don't even interact with humans. Like, I just interact with agents.
Yeah, I don't see that. I definitely don't see that.
Yeah, like they might interact with, like, say, parents and stuff, but I could see a position where a kid in 8 years' time who's being bullied at whatever the school looks like those days, I'll be like, I don't interact with humans and friends. I just have 17 agent friends, and I do all my purchases through these agents here, or I operate through that, and there's this disconnect to humanity. Now, I hope it doesn't do that. I also hope that doesn't happen.
I think a very small subset would be served by that, i.e. people who really struggle in the you know, let's say you're or severely autistic or something like that, and you really, really struggle to understand the human to human, like you get zero benefit from humans, whereas others where it's like there is some benefit, even if it is flip-floppy and at times is hard and difficult. I very much just view it more as like, well, we'll just have more technology, but it's just going to be humans interacting as humans in a fucking virtual world or whatever.
Yeah, I also feel, so, you know, getting back to that article as well with the attention versus intention, one of the things, I think they touched on it, but I'm hearing it from all over the place. And similar to you, I'm doing a lot more reading now than I am scrolling, but I'm still listening and both audio and video stuff. But what does feel like is coming next year is an absolute train wreck of people not being able to find jobs, people getting laid off because of the, hey, we've got to just use AI, and then that not working, and then this whole debacle of like, oh, we fired all these people, but now we got to bring them back, and this thing's not working. Like, I can very much see that happening, with then the opportunity of people who are creating brand new systems to just go ridiculously crazy. I think some of the stats was in 2025, there was 50 new billionaires minted in AI companies, like brand new AI companies that all of a sudden have made these people billionaires out of nowhere. So like just an influx of money. I think Bill Gurley was talking to Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you listened to that podcast recently.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So Bill Gurley was talking about basically in venture capital, which, you know, is a big part of funding for new companies. If your new company wasn't doing AI, you basically just didn't get funds. That's it. If you weren't doing something AI related, goodbye. You're not getting any venture capital funding. I think there was another number, maybe from the Moonshots group, 50% of all VC funding in the world was AI focused. So it's like all the attention is going there, right? And it's for maybe the new intention economy and everything else. So it's like everything is pivoting to that particular point. I can just see this train wreck happening in 2026 where you're just going to have like people being laid off to make use of AI or try and get into it. Things are working, trying to be brought back, and then just in this whole chaotic thing, the opportunity for these new systems to come out and play, and actually them being the new thing that comes up and available. I think there was an article I was reading last night, and they were talking about, I don't know if this is happening in Australia yet, but in the US, a whole host of the Ivy League, like top college students that are coming out, especially wanting to go into research or law, all of them, there's like tons of articles. It's like, oh, nobody is getting a job. There is no jobs for these people. Why? Because entry level, like junior lawyers, entry level data and researchers, it's like those roles are just not available anymore. No one's hiring for them. So if you've gone through this process of the last couple of years of getting prepared for that, you're not even needed in the market anymore. And so that's why I hear some people say, well, there's probably going to be a real transition in the next couple of years of like people becoming laborers, because that might not go away for a while. So that is going to be super interesting, where I think we're going to move from attention to intention, whether that's in the existing systems or new systems. But in the ugly transition period is going to be ugly for people who are going to be like just laid off or not have an opportunity until the opportunity becomes so abundantly clear. So I think it's gonna get ugly. I don't know what it'll look like, but I think it's gonna be ugly for a lot of people. Yep.
Okay, one thing's ugly. I think just normal. Just it's. Would you have described the 2010s as ugly? Because that was where a whole bunch of people who were probably like who used to be actors of some sort of sense now became influencers, and now there's influencers instead. No, I heard a crazy thing, which was like 10% of young adults in the US were like influencers was their primary income.
Or more than that. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Like a couple of years ago, it was like something along the order of the most popular job that kids wanted in like 6 years ago was an influencer. Yeah, and now it's like 10%.
I can understand that. Yeah. I'll just touch on the last thing that I've really been using. So there's a game called X402 Monopoly. If you want some free money, I'm about to give you the secrets. And this is actually not hyperbole. This is something you can use right now. Sure. If you are, and I'm willing to give my secret away. Ebook only $10. But essentially, this game is these people have set up 4 different models: Claude, GPT, Grok, and DeepSeek, and they are the players of a Monopoly game. And so they're using reasoning, and they're just doing API calls to the individual models, and they're set up in this world of Monopoly, where it's like, hey, here are the rules. And it's very similar to normal Monopoly, like almost identical, but some names changed to probably not get sued outright, even though they probably will, because they're still using Monopoly name, whatever. And the agents, have 300 turns to play this game. Have I talked about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know if you talked about it on the podcast directly or not.
Okay. They have 300 turns between them, so that's 75 turns per agent. And essentially, like, they're given a pot of money to start with. Each, I think it's 1,500, and they play the game, and they got to try and buy properties, build houses, get other people.
Play Monopoly.
Yep. They all have different styles. Claude is much more conservative. It doesn't buy things very, very often. And if it does, it's like, it's always wanting to try and just get a set of 3, even though that's unrealistic. Like, you should just be buying everything at the start. That's how general Monopoly works. Some of the others, then they can try and trade between each others. Sometimes they'll make these stupid ass trades where they'll have a thing right next to each other. They'll switch, and one of them will pay like an extra 100 or something. You've gained no advantage by doing that. It's kind of fun watching it and seeing how retarded it is. But essentially, I think...
Are they using like the latest models of each one of those? So I wouldn't... Because I'm just thinking the financials behind it. Like, are they using the proper pro
I have no
API
idea.
full models? That's going to cost them like a lot per API call.
I imagine they're using the cheapest thing they can, because
that's interesting.
They're doing a lot of calls.
Okay.
Because they've got... Basically, there's a new game basically every 10 to 15 minutes. And so you, as a person, can watch the game and bet on which agent you think is going to win. Mm-hmm. And so you're just using USDC on either Base or Solana, and you can go like, oh yeah, I'll put 1 cent that this one's going to win. And if someone puts $1 on another agent, you could, for 1 cent bet, take everything. If someone else puts 1 cent, it goes 50-50, and I could win 50 cents. I've been thinking, this is one where I'm like, okay, one, I find this kind of fun. This isn't boring to me. I actually kind of enjoy watching the game, seeing how they play each other.
Think it out, yep.
I'm doing like little mini bets, so I'm starting to learn more about probabilities and Monopoly. And I think I've made like $50, $100 from this over the last week or two. I can't play this all the time because it really is like there's a snapshot at 100, and so really you want to be doing your bets just before 100 because you've got the most info.
Yep.
And it then takes a while to build back up to 100 again when the new game starts. So it's very distracting. If you're doing something on a computer, you can turn onto it, look, do a quick bet or something, then go back. And when I say bet, I mean, in this case, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one actually playing, and that the people who developed this have set up a little system where they have seed every round with
gotcha.
$1,
Something,
30 cents, 50 cents,
Yep.
sometimes more, just so that there's actual players playing the game, i.e. me betting on it. I was thinking like, all right, I could set up and I still might do this, an agent to, and when I say agent, it's not an agent because it would simply be like, if X do Y, but more extended. So it'd be saying like, if there's a kitty on this one person, put 1 cent on all of these other agents. Or, take a snapshot of the game at this time period, maybe call ChatGPT, ask it like, with this snapshot, what are the probabilities? Go back, look at what other people have bet on it, and if there's a mismatch, put 50 cents on this thing or something. Okay, that's I think that's doable within my limits. It would still take a lot of time of learning, but I think I could do something like that. The other day, there was a mishap, and basically like they ran out of credits on their side. And so it was calling the agent to do some reasoning.
Yeah, but it wasn't getting it.
But it was returning the string of text saying like, you need more API credits, blah, 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 blah. Like this is literally a beta, the beta of the beta of games. The funny thing though was that sometimes an agent would go into the jail, and then instead of spending to get out of the jail, and for some reason like rolling doubles didn't work, they would just get stuck in there. And so then there's all these other agents, 2 of them or 3 of them playing the game normally. And then the funny thing is that it could sometimes win by being in the jail because it had all of its money still. And then these other ones were like losing it back and forth. It just made me go, okay, there's still 0 chance of me creating something that's dynamic enough to be able to like understand that this has now happened. Like there's the rules of the game, and the rules of the game have been broken. Like the game has now changed, and finding something that is capable of understanding that the rules of the game, and that's probably what makes us humans. Like there's the rules, but then we can break the rules, or the rules sometimes change, or the rules need to be broken. Like morally, what's the right thing to do is to follow the laws of your country. What if the laws of your country are fucked up, and the moral thing is to break the laws of the country? All of these like layers and layers of context, and that from what I can gather, things are just nowhere near being able to layer on yet. So
like for it to break like that. Yeah.
So these are just a couple of things. I'm enjoying playing around with this stuff more so than I thought. Normally, I'm like with technology and diving into new stuff, I get pissed off when things don't work. Like that game broke, and normally when things break, I get pissed off. The car breaking down, I get pissed off. I don't want to deal with it.
Yep.
TV, something that used to work, now broken, pissed off. I don't want to learn how to fix it. With this stuff, I'm finding I'm like,
interesting.
Yeah, it's more fun to see, okay, how can I fix this thing, or how can I get around this thing being broken? So that's probably just a change of my own little behavior as compared to previously. Is there anything
I think because the overall, I don't know, my usage of it has net benefited me in that a lot of the things that I do or I play around with them, yes, sometimes it doesn't end up working out like I need them to, but like in the example that you're giving earlier, I don't use it right now to book a restaurant because I don't really go to restaurants that often, and when I do, it's I'll just go. I don't really book.
Yeah, same with flights, same with...
Correct. So I'm not really using it for that. So where there might be problems if it actually fails, I'm not using it for those things, and where I am using it, I'm like, wow, this is benefiting me tremendously. Awesome. So yeah, I'm enjoying using it. Yeah, I think more than anything, like reading and listening to stuff in relation to it, especially how it's being used or the updates. There was one I was going to shout out was, and I don't know if Alex has it on Substack, but I read it on X, which is Alex Peter Grosner. He releases a daily, like short notes of things that are happening in the AI space. I'm sure there's freaking so many things out there, whether there's video or text or whatever. As an example for his one, on the daily, obviously it's a little bit of his text, but it's mostly AI summarized. And the amount of things that are happening on the daily and what I really like about his is that he is generally related back to journal articles that have just been released in Nature or something else, and then just skim reading and understanding that. I kind of go, wow, there are so many things happening so quickly right now that it gives me that feeling of this is going to go at such breakneck speed in a different system, because again, seeing it operate at government levels and other big enterprises, it just doesn't go as quick as you want it to be. It doesn't go that quick, and you would have to break existing systems that already have fundamental like footholds in society. The current systems and ways of working, like a Visa and MasterCard as an example, there's no incentive of them shifting off into X402 or something else because they make a lot of money in the existing system, and they've set up regulations and systems in place so that they're benefited by it. And so, regulations are almost trying to do away with any more competition. So it's interesting to me to read and see as people start generating these brand new ways of participating. Again, I haven't seen it like that dominatingly. One of the things that I randomly see, so kind of again from attention to intention is a part of that. But the new car taxi mode of Tesla that they're looking to bring out in next year, and again, if this happens next year, who knows? But the concept of their car is right now Waymo's just basically take cars, it just auto drives them, takes people to your location, but there's no one driving. That new taxi is no steering wheel. It's just a car design so that you can have 6 people sitting around in like a circle basically, because you don't need a steering wheel, you don't need anything else. And they're looking for a price point of like $4 or $5 to go from 20 kilometers, something like that, I think it was. So like when you've got something operating in that space, yes, it's within the constraints of our physical world, but if someone said right now, oh yeah, they're available here in Brisbane, where it's a car that has no steering wheel and can just get you around, and it costs you $4 to go from like where you live to over here, all of a sudden it breaks my mentality of what's the need of owning a car anymore, right? So there's that mentality, and the one that I'm really interesting that I keep hearing, because I think there's going to be a messy middle, is not the universal basic income conversation, which might at some point have to happen, but universal basic services being provided by countries, companies, government, whatever, where I think in the next couple of years, there's going to have to be basic services provided by somebody to the people that have no other possibility because their job has been displaced for a temporary time.
So that's essentially they get free rides to places.
So it might be like rides or schooling or water, energy. So universal basic services in that, oh, hey, your job has been displaced. Unless you decide to really skill up and go learn mathematics or whatever, you just don't really have a job. Hey, but we'll pay you your fundamental services of living so you can live. But that's it. That's kind of where it ends. And there's a lot of conversations around how do you bring the cost of everything down to a point where being able to provide basic service. I think the Moonshot's attempt is bringing it down to $150 per month cost, as in like being able to provide water, food, energy, living to $150. That's a challenge that they have. I could see some order of effects being brought on by that change to the intent economy, because in the messy middle, when you have a lot of people who just can't play or don't want, like you're going to have a lot of people who don't want to operate in that space. They'll just be like, I don't want to learn how to use agents and play around with these things. And in comparison to the internet, where it kind of propagated through life and it did take away some jobs and then people had to reskill and learn how to operate in that space, there's a slight sentiment, at least in my mind, oh, will this just go that much quicker? And that creates a little messy middle before people then just kind of pivot and change and kind of go, okay, well, I have to go and learn and do something different, and then we'll get back to some normality once again.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yep. I don't know if you've got any comments at all from the tube or anything else while we've been talking.
Don't see any on that.
Right. Well, for those VM1 who are still hanging around, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the holidays as well. We've still got a couple of episodes to come. I've preloaded a lot of stuff to come out in the early January period. There's some book reviews that are being created and other episodes as well. So tune into that. And yeah, my only takeaway, if you're not playing around with some agentic stuff or trying to win money on agentic monopoly, man, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to play. Me and more lights. We'll leave it there. Be well. One out.
Going out. Bye.